Hi, I'm here now.
Hi, Berenice. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our brunch talks. It's so wonderful to have you with us today. Today, I don't know how I'm feeling because I'm really a bit sad in my heart because of what has been going on in our communities. We've had this brunch talks on gender-based violence for this is the third week we're having it, and right in our weeks, I'm reminded of an old case and a new one. Shanice, commonly known as Fetu, she was brutally murdered and raped and left in a field, and she's a mother. And there was a big march, and later on, we're going to have one of our panelists today was at the march, and he's going to tell us what's going on. So my heart is really, really heavy. Earlier in the year, also one of the girls that was in our church, Jasmine, she was also two guys came into the house and shot and killed her in her home with a baby in her arms. uh, it's really, really difficult times. It's tough times out there. And my heart is heavy when I hear these things. And we are trying to create an awareness on gender-based violence with our program. So welcome, Mr. Heavy, welcome to Branch Talks. I hope I want to encourage you to send in messages. Tell us how you feel, man. Speak to us. Welcome. Please welcome, get somebody else on board, share the page, tag everyone. Let us know how you feel about the situation and voice your feelings. We will read some of them out. I see Lindelba Zonyani from Royland Park is already on. Thank you. Boisa Slangoti is on as well. Thank you for coming on. Shamel Plaikis is on. There's other people on as well. So please keep on messaging. Tell us how you're feeling. I've got a panel today. We've been having some internet problems and problems with some of our panelists, and some of them will come on a little bit later. But for now, I just want to just introduce Warrant Officer Anel Van Ike. She is from SAPS, or SAP, South African Police, yeah, SAP, and we would like to welcome her. Anel, don't you just
Thank
want
you.
to say hi to the people out there?
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm Warrant Officer Van Ike. I'm working at Kabiga Park. I've been in the Victim Support Center for about 4 years. And yeah, we deal with domestic violence on a daily basis.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, Anel. It's going to be great having you on to get your insight, especially from the police. And then at the same time, I want to welcome also Berenice with us tonight. Berenice is at the Rape Crisis Center, and I want to hear her views as well. That's why she's on today. And Berenice, I want to really just welcome you on board on our program today. Can you just say hi to everyone? Maybe introduce yourself and just say hi to everyone out there.
Berenice Jacobs. I'm the director at the Port Elizabeth Rape Crisis Center. Like the warrant officer was saying, we also deal with sexual violence and also gender-based violence. We have been in existence over 25 years in the Nelson Mandela Metropolitan. Thank you very much for inviting us.
Yeah, thank you, Berenice Jacobs. You know, you guys are doing sterling work, and I'm part of the program is to highlight what you guys are doing. Also, you know, to tell people there is help out there, there is support out there. And then I also want to just introduce my friend, Sherwin Nell. He's an activist. He's a gender-based violence activist, and amongst other things, a businessman, entrepreneur, and just a good friend. And I asked him to be on as well. So Sherwin, just shortly, want to just maybe introduce yourself and say hi to everybody out there. Hi, Sherwin, can you hear me there? I think we lost Sherwin. We've been having problems, on and off problems. I just want to also use this opportunity to just welcome some people that is messaging us and letting us know who's there. Just before we start, who's there? Let me see. Shamel Plaikis, good evening. Good evening, Shamel. Thanks for joining us. Bernard Erasmus, hi Bernard. Nice to have you with us. And then my good friend Pilani Mabaso. Oh, welcome, sir. Welcome. He's all the way from KwaZulu-Natal, from Durban. Thank you for joining in today on this interesting topic. Thank you, Pilani. Nice. Thank you for joining in. Veronique Nikki Hoffman, she's done a great thing. She's been tagging people. So if you can, I ask everyone that's messaging in also to tag others in. And when you tag others in, you are spreading the message a little bit further. So thank you, Veronique, for tagging Courtney, Jonas, Nicole, Jenna Lee, Jonas, Ashley, Jacobs, and all those people. Thank you for tagging people. Dion Kleinboy, thank you for watching as well. And then also Buhiswa, thank you for tagging people. I want to encourage you to keep on sharing, and helping us get the message out. Later on, we'll also Pastor Jimmy Crompton. Thank you, Pastor Jimmy, for being a part of the show tonight. Thank you for being a part. He's the senior pastor of Word of Faith Christian Center. Thank you very much. Yolandi Jacobs, also thank you for joining in. Normally, our time goes very, very, very quickly. And so we want to jump straight into the conversation that we're going to have. Sherwin, are you with us? Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Pastor.
Yes, this is Sherwin now. Let me give an introduction again. He's a good friend of mine. We were together as board members at the YMCA. He's also a board member of the Samke resort. Camp and center there. He's a businessman and entrepreneur, but he's also an activist on the gender-based violence. If you go into his Facebook page, you'll see a lot of photographs and things. And just do you want to just say hi to everyone, Sherwin, just shortly?
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Pastor.
Yeah, thank you, man. We're gonna talk. Let me just kick off with Sherwin here quickly. Sherwin, I was saying in my introduction, I don't know if you got on a little bit late, but I said in my introduction that my heart is heavy. My heart is sore because we've been speaking about gender-based violence for the last this is the third week we're doing it as a program and a show. And in the meanwhile, we hear of Shanice Jonathan, or Fetu, as she was called, a nickname, that was murdered, killed, raped, left in a field, a mother in Shorterville, and it led to a protest action, it was a peaceful, not protest, peaceful march gathering of people that protested, and demanded, demanded action from the police and from the community, calling on people. I've also at the same time, one of the girls that was in our church, Shanice, Jasmine Phyllis, she was also brutally killed. Two men breaking into the home, killed her point blank with a baby in her hand. And that was earlier in the year, and they had a march this Sunday afternoon as well in the streets to demand justice and to be vocal about gender-based violence. And this is this is the month of it's Women's Month. So I want to kick off with you. Tell us a little bit, you were at the event. Tell us, what was it, maybe give us just a background, what was it about, and how many people was there, who was there? Tell us a little bit your view on the march. When was it, the other day?
Okay, thank you, Pastor. Thank you to the viewers. So yeah, like you say, it was a silent protest, supposed to be a silent protest. We thought of creating a human chain just to highlight the scourge of gender-based violence that is happening. And I think you rightfully said in your introduction, Pastor, that your heart is heavy. And I feel exactly the same way, because we've gotten to a point in our community where we see these things and we hear about it, and sometimes it doesn't even make the headlines in the news. And it's just sad that our women have to experience this kind of thing. So yeah, a couple of young people, I have to mention also, young people decided to bring together the community. What was, we find ourselves in a period of lockdown, so we didn't expect the turnout that we had. It was basically just to highlight the thing. So we used social media, and people really, the nice thing is that people started to see this and there was a trend happening, and people wanted to know what's happening, and they obviously disagree with what's happening. I always say, Pastor Frederick, I say that your words have no credibility until it's turned into action. So the outcome of the march was the voices of many people, specifically in the northern areas, demanding action to be taken. So yeah.
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 Yes, and that's a very important statement you made there. Very powerful. That your voice means nothing if it doesn't go over to action, and that applies, I guess, for everything in life. But especially with this particular thing. I want to bring in Anel, Warrant Officer Van Ike. Anel, you told me when we were talking off air, you said you deal with this situation almost every day, and that is violence, abuse at the police station, in the victim support centers that you have. Do you have any idea of how bad are things in Port Elizabeth?
Well, it's very bad, especially against women, but also against children. And the big thing is, if the people doesn't know about all the options there is, they won't know where to get help. And I think the lack of information is the big problem here, because every police station has a victim support center, and there's options for women that is in fear for their life, where to go to. And these lists of role players are at each station. So I think the lack of the information that is out there for the community, that is the big problem. Maybe there must be more distribution of pamphlets or anything like that to raise the awareness that there is a possibility for you to go to. And domestic violence isn't just a wife and a husband and the kids. There's lots of relationships that is a domestic violence or domestic relationship. A domestic relationship is anybody that is blood related to you, as well as adopted or otherwise stepchildren, stepfather, stepmother. And we also get males that are being abused.
Yeah.
And the big thing is also you need to know the different crimes that is part of abuse, because it's not just the physical abuse. There's many other crimes that form part of abuse.
Yeah. Thank you, Anel. That's the reason for this program, because we want to be practical. Later on, and I want to encourage everyone, don't go away. We want to discuss practical ways on, if you are facing that type of situation, what can you do? These ladies and gentlemen is going to help us tonight. So I'm really excited about that. Berenice, I want to bring you at the Rape Crisis Center. I was speaking to my sister, who is the Project Hope director of Project Hope, and she was raving about the sterling work that the Rape Crisis Center has been doing for years in Port Elizabeth. Can you tell us what? The first question is also, how bad is rape specifically in Port Elizabeth, in Port Elizabeth, statistic wise, and also tell us what services do you guys offer at the Rape Crisis Center?
Yes, I think in PE, it's quite alarming, the statistics. Before lockdown, Rape Crisis Center normally gets between 100 and 115 sexual violence cases per month. That's only in PE alone. I mean, now it's lockdown, it's obviously reduced because people don't come out that
sorry, Berenice, man, you're very, very soft. I was wondering if you can maybe come a bit closer, or maybe push up the volume. I don't know how it works there. Maybe see. Lissy, can you, sorry to interrupt you, can you go on? Thank you. We didn't, because we
Okay.
didn't really hear at the beginning. Yeah.
Did you get the fact that I was saying? Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, much better. Go for it.
Okay. So what I was saying with Rape Crisis Center, for example, we deal with about 100 and 115 sexual violence cases per month in
My word.
our metro.
Sorry, say that again, Berenice. How many?
So per month, we're dealing with between 100 and 115 sexual violence cases. Remember, those are only reported cases.
My word. Berenice, 115 sexual violence cases per month.
Yeah.
That is, what is this, 30 days? That's about 3, almost 4 rape cases or sexual violence cases every day. Every day of the year, every month.
So those are only the reported cases that I'm talking about. Then, for example, we have another program where we deal with gender-based violence. So we might see about 80 to 100 people per month. But just to explain to you, we're not the only people dealing with rape. We are in partnership with the Tutuzela Care Center, with the National Prosecuting Authorities, SAPS, obviously the Department of Social Development, and the Department of Health. So that's where we provide services under one umbrella to sexual violence victims in PE.
Yeah. And so we're going to, later on, we're going to go a little bit deeper and more practical and technical to see what, what to help people out there and what's going on. Yeah, go for it.
No, I just wanted to say that, so over the years, we've noted that when we look at gender-based violence, the nature or the manner in which these crimes are being executed is so horrific, I mean, the warrant officer was just, or yourself was explaining about Fetu who died, but there was also like a couple of other cases. One lady who died, she attended her father's funeral. So her ex-husband obviously sort of disguised himself at the funeral and shot the wife, the ex-wife, dead, at the graveside, I mean, that's so horrific. The other lady in Keiga was stabbed 31 times by her husband. So one would say that the crimes that are being committed against women is really unacceptable. It's becoming more barbaric. And one is, it's kind of a very, very much a great concern for people, for us, for everyone, I suppose, in society.
Yeah. Well, that is quite something. Shawan, let's talk a little bit. What can we do? Because it seems to happen that every time something happens, then we march and we do things and we make a big uproar for a month or so, or maybe even just a week or 2 weeks. It's in the news, and then we go silent again, and then something happens again, and then we go again. They always say prevention is better than cure. So how can we, maybe, I don't know if you've thought about this, but how can we mobilize, what can we do, to mobilize men? We are men, so men of the community to, is there any practical ways? What can we do to make our voices heard?
Yeah, Pastor, thank you very much for that. I think you stole the words right out of my mouth. I was just going to say prevention is better than cure. And it's just sad that we keep finding ourselves coming back to this point where we have to speak about another young lady's life being taken, or innocent children, and those kind of things that happen in our community. So one of the things that I thought of actually yesterday was getting into, we find ourselves as a community, we find ourselves in a vicious cycle of poverty and a vicious cycle of anger and violence. I mean, it's all over us and all around us. And so I think at this juncture, I just want to make an urgent call to all organizations, even the church out there. Thank you once again, Pastor Frederick and Word of Faith, for what you guys are doing and being vocal on this matter. It's really a privilege to be associated with something like this, because I think a lot of these organizations and churches have become very silent. And once something happens, then people want to start making a noise about it. And I spoke to some of the organizers of this Justice for Fetu campaign other young people and many activists in the community. And I said to them, we should stop something like this from happening the next time around. And so I think it's important to bring all the role players to the table. I think it's we're privileged here to have the police, the Rape Crisis Center. Warrant officers spoke about a lack of information and education in our community. A lot of these young ladies also find themselves in this predicament and they don't know how to get out. And so when we create these platforms for them to speak out, then we create an opportunity for them to vent and an opportunity for them for their stories to be told, and not once they've already succumbed to their injuries and once their bodies are found laying in the street somewhere, then we give them an opportunity to speak. So yeah, you rightfully said prevention is better than cure. So we really need to bring all role players together and really start speaking about this issue. It's a major issue in our community. It's something we can't ignore. And so I'm making an urgent appeal and an urgent call to all organizations, all that can help, to really get involved in this, so that together we can make a difference.
Exactly. Thank you very much, Shawan. That word prevention, I was reading through the messages because a lot of people are messaging in, and I need to just acknowledge some people as well so that we can, because we want them to message in and we have Lizelle Niekerk. Welcome, Lizelle. Thank you for tagging people. Pastor Jimmy Crompton was tagging a lot of people. Dolores Kleinboy says, Anel, I'm so proud of you. So you have a fan there, Anel.
I'm her fan also. We work together, so I'm her fan as well.
Yes, I know Dolores very, very well. She's a social worker. Thank you. And then Joseph Williams, also a friend of yours, now a policeman as well. He's on YouTube. Thank you for checking us out on YouTube. Who is there? Courtney Jonas, thank you for tagging. Lizelle, thank you for tagging. And here's the interesting thing. Dion Kleinboy says, he's also, I know him as a teacher at Chatty. He says, one way to stop is to start with prevention. There you start at the school level with curriculum coverage, including gender-based violence. Don't you guys agree with that? I mean, I have to agree with
Definitely.
that. Because we get taught accounting, we get taught maths that I'm going to use again, but we don't get taught about leadership, about relationships, and all of that at school level in the curriculum. Anel, can you tell us, you from the police side, are you guys doing anything in the schools, or is there something
Yes,
like that?
actually, I used to go to the schools. That's one of my favorite things to do. It's actually to go to the schools. I try to make the people know that your body is your body and that only you are allowed in your own body space. So what I do is I take little underwear for the kids and ask them, what does this protect? And then they'll say our private parts. And then from there, I ask them who's allowed to touch. So we do that. And then also we speak about them or to them about abuse. I think the big thing is why the people doesn't report it. They feel intimidated. They know that they are going to face the person if they act, and they are afraid of when they are facing the perpetrator that all hell is going to break loose. So, but the big thing is if they know how the protection orders work and the help that is there for them, then they will come forward. And I think that is a big problem. Because intimidation is one of the crimes. It can be a direct or indirect intimidation. I can tell somebody to tell you, I'm going to kill your child if you don't do this and this and this. So that is a type of intimidation. Then you've got your physical abuse, but your most, I'll say the worst one would be psychological abuse. Because, scars can heal, but the psychological part thereof never heals. And your verbal abuse that you do get and your sexual abuse. And the problem is that when the abuse happens, you're always a victim. And there's a certain phase that is going through, that domestic violence is going through. There's a upbuilding phase where you can realize, okay, this guy's getting agitated with me now, so I'm trying to walk on eggs here so that there won't be an outburst. And as soon as the outburst is there, that is when the action happens. And after the action, usually they will try to make up, and we call it the honeymoon phase. I'll buy you flowers or whatever, but always with abuse. It's getting worse. Maybe he'll slap you today. Tomorrow you're going to be kicked. And the day thereafter, it happened with one of the ladies that we had. She only came into the station, it was at Mount Road years ago. She only came into the station after she was beaten so badly that she almost lost the baby. She was pregnant at that stage. And with her, it started with verbal abuse and it escalated. And the abuse always escalates. And I think it's important for the women to know that when you come to the police station, you won't speak in front of anybody. You can just tell them, I need to see the domestic violence coordinator, or I need to go to the victim support room to speak to somebody.
Yeah.
And they will be privately interviewed, totally private. And then we can explain to them how the protection orders works.
Yeah. Okay,
I
later
don't
on.
know if...
Yeah, I want people not to go away because we're going to get to that part and all of that. Berenice, with the Rape Crisis Center, I know you guys have got programs and things that you do, I'm sure, in schools and for prevention. And can you tell us a little bit about that? What are you guys doing school-wise with young people and youth and so on?
So basically what we look at, we normally analyze like the number of incidents being reported in a particular area in terms of rape cases. And then we would identify a number of schools and then implement a prevention educational program, which is looking at gender-based violence. Also like the drivers of gender-based violence, like substance abuse, teenage pregnancy, HIV, AIDS, etc. But I just wanted to add, like, I agree with the whole issue that that we should put gender-based violence as part of the curriculum. But I think the problem is so complex because you can teach a child at home, I mean at school, about how to prevent gender-based violence. But if the child goes back home, they might experience gender-based violence. That's when we need to look at a holistic approach, you know, not just schools, but also what can we do in the community.
Yeah.
Another thing is, if we look at churches, unfortunately, many of the people, or rather people who does sometimes abuse, are people who are in the church. So the church also needs to address gender-based violence, which I think that the church is failing us, because you find many of the perpetrators is the ones who actually go to church. So the church should be more proactive in addressing gender-based violence.
Yeah. Well, I'm a part
I'm
of the
not blaming the church, I'm just suggesting, you know.
No, definitely. You know, some people you'll find, some people will even use scripture, or we spoke about it last week and the week before after that. They'll use scripture to say that, for instance, men are better than women, or something crazy scripture that they twist for their own way to sort of to be perpetrators of, you know, of those things. Also, the one thing I found out, and maybe Berenice, I wanted to know if you agree with me or not here. It's not always that you find in the case of Fetu that it's somebody that is waiting in the bush and a lady walks by and they grab the person in the bush and drag them. Isn't it mostly people, uncles, fathers, people that you know?
Yeah, I think statistics actually says about 60% of the cases that we actually deal with is people that they know, you know, it's acquaintances, and probably a few might be a stranger, you know, etc. So most of the perpetrators would be an uncle, the father, the stepfather, the cousin, the neighbor, people you obviously know, people you actually trust, who's actually raping someone else. Yeah. So it's the majority is when you know people. You know?
Yeah.
And that's the saddest part, I think, when it happens. You know. Yeah. Because the people who are supposed to protect you are the ones who actually violate you.
Yes, no, I hear what you're saying. I'm here getting some of the messages here. Wedolene says hi. Wesley says, which actually my brother Wesley Blichnout is watching on YouTube, he says, as men, we need to raise more awareness of gender-based violence amongst each other, and especially our young boys. Sherwin, I want to bring you in here. Isn't that the thing amongst men, what they call the bro code, where you won't snitch. You won't snitch on your brother or your friend that's a man. You won't put him right. How important is us as men sorting that thing out?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention something that I've been saying the past few days, and it's one of my favorite quotes by Archbishop Desmond Tutu. He says, "If we are silent during times of oppression, then we are on the side of the oppressor." And it's important for men to really come out now. We can see, it's clear, all the statistics is there, that our women are being oppressed by men. We live in a male-dominant society as much as we want to deny it. And there's still, especially in the context of Africa and even in the context of South Africa, we find ourselves still putting men on that pedestal and in that positions of power. When the man comes home, that everything must be in order. The wife has to slave the whole day, just to make sure that his plate of food is ready when he gets home.
Yeah.
So that's the cycle that exists in our homes, we can see it all around us. But we're not doing, like you said, Pastor, anything practical about it. We see it. We grow up knowing these things, but we're not doing anything practical about it. So I'm saying it's time that men should start taking responsibility and ownership, giving women that space to occupy positions of leadership, giving them that space to occupy positions where they can also find their independence, because we take a lot of that independence away from them by creating these little atmospheres. It all starts with this small little things, these actions that we put in place. Like
Sherwin, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'm saying Wesley's also saying, don't you feel it's also, he says, don't validate jokes and remarks that undermine women or young girls. Isn't that the thing as well amongst men?
100%, 100%. For men also, we always try and look at excuses. So, for instance, the girl was dressed in a particular way. That still doesn't give anybody the right to do what he wants to with her, because she was dressed in a particular way, or because she made moves in a certain way and she said certain things that sort of drew us to her, whatever the case may be. And I'm specifically mentioning the word us because all of us have a responsibility. Each man in society, we have a responsibility, whether or not we are part of it, or if we've been perpetrators or whatever. We still have it's our obligation to actually put right and put in place. We need to take up our rightful places in society. We can't see these things and hear about these things and say nothing. I mean, some of these girls that are raped, and they have a problem. They're on drugs. They find themselves in socially vulnerable situations. And then men or anybody else for that matter wants to put up a wall or an excuse and say, these are the reasons why this happened to her. We can never justify gender-based violence. There's no justification. And so it's our duty as men to be the protectors of a woman instead of, seeing these things and saying nothing about it.
So let's go over, because our time, guys, this program always, the time just runs away with us. But let's go over to the practical side of the whole thing. Let's start with Warrant Officer Van Ike. So what, I wrote down here, what can a person that is a victim of domestic violence do to get help? So let's start there. So
Okay.
Yeah, go for it.
The victim has options of, obviously, you go to the police station, to the Victim Support Center. You can open up a case. If you feel threatened to open up a case, you can open the protection order. You can obtain a protection order. The protection order you obtain from the new law courts. You get it from a magistrate court, and then it will be served by the police on the perpetrator. Okay. We always keep the file at the station as well.
Yeah.
And there's two different ones.
I wanted to ask you, before that even, is there a number? Can a person just say, let's say I'm scared, my husband, I'm scared of my husband, I'm scared of the situation. Can somebody just phone in?
10111. Yes, we've got on each shift, there are members that are trained in domestic violence. And that is one of the most complaints that you get during the night, especially. is the domestic violence, and early morning hours, you get the domestic violence cases that are reported. The police is responsible to go to those people. If they phone in 10111, a van will be sent to you. And then on the scene, if the person feels that she's not safe there, she can be removed, or they can put her with family, or otherwise, if she goes to the victim support center, from there, we make arrangements for them. There's a place that takes women with their children, Ukushelu Haven. We work closely with them. I think all the victim support centers in PE has their number, and they are thriving on trying to get that women educated so that they won't be abused again, and they try to learn them a skill. They've got sewing classes, they've got glass staining classes. They do various things with the victim, and they walk the whole path with the victim until the end. The big problem is the women gets talked over, and they are actually, the people change their minds, because now I promise you I won't do it again, and all that. And what they do, they don't go to court again, because with your interim protection order, that's the first one that you apply for. You go and they give you a date. On that date, you need to be at court. But before that, the police will go and they will serve the protection order on the perpetrator. If he doesn't sign, the policeman sign. And that goes with your, a copy of that goes with your protection order, and it goes into a domestic violence file at the station, so that we've got a copy of that as well. For instance, maybe the husband get it and he tore it up, and what you're going to do then. So we've got that at our station then. And from the moment that that thing is signed, the return of service is signed, you are protected. But
Okay.
then you must go back to court, because if you don't go back to court on that court date, they withdraw the case. So it's very important for the women to go to court and follow up. Otherwise, that case is null and void.
Yeah.
You can do the protection order, or you can open up a case, or you can do both. It doesn't mean that if I've got a protection order, I can't open up a case. You can still open up a case, because abuse is abuse. So you can still open up a case. But the big thing is, if you've got that protection order in place, you are already covered. And then that's the interim protection order. After the lady went back to the court on the court date, they issued the final protection order with a warrant of arrest. So as soon, and then when it's issued by the magistrate, it's immediately effective. So what's happening then is, if something will happen, that anything is written in the statement, I've been verbally abused, I've been emotionally abused, I've been financially abused, he's not allowed on my premises. If anything like that has been done by the perpetrator, you can be arrested immediately. And the nice thing about the domestic violence, if you are arrested on that, you can't get police bail. So the policeman can't give you bail. You need to apply for bail through court. And they won't allow you to go if there's not a valid reason why you need to be out on bail. So that is...
Thank you, Anel. Berenice, I know there's also, I had personal experience many years ago, more than 20 odd years ago. I was working in Cape Town, and one of the ladies that I was working with, she was raped, and so I had to walk with her in this whole process. So I know there's a process of what is the do's and don'ts of, if somebody that was sexually violated, raped, or molested. Can you take us through that? What is the I know there's certain things they must do and they mustn't do.
Yes, thank you. I think the most important thing is, it's not always nice, but it's advisable. So in the event someone does get raped, they should not actually washed, because obviously that will be used for evidence later on. So the important thing is, I know it's uncomfortable, The second thing is it's important to report your case within 72 hours. The reason is that evidence obviously is fresh. Also, the other thing is for doctors to prescribe the PEP for the clients, which makes it easier, you know, within that 72 hours. If a crime has happened in a particular area, if you take Shorterville, you're falling under Galvindale. So you have to report the case to Galvindale. You will obviously provide the police with a statement of what happened. You might not obviously remember everything, but you can tell the police obviously what you remember. If you do remember later on, you can actually add to your statement, if I'm correct, Warrant Officer.
Yes.
So from there, they will transport you as a victim or the survivor to Dora and Ginza Hospital. That's where all the rape cases are being handled. Unfortunately, you cannot go directly to the Tutuzela Care Center. You have to get a case number to be seen by a medical doctor. That is the odd part of it. So there, obviously, a counselor will see you, provide you with crisis counseling. There's also a police officer on duty, and then obviously you'll get your medical examination. Now, through that process, we obviously support you morally, and the doctor conducts a medical examination. Obviously, there's a crime kit, the evidence is sealed, a J88 is completed and given over to the police, etc., as evidence. If you need ongoing counseling, we can provide that at Rape Crisis Center. The police is most obviously responsible for the investigation. And then later on, if you need court support, court preparation, for example, because often people fear the court proceedings, we do provide our clients with court support or court preparation. So that's a process in a nutshell, because you have time limits as well. Yeah.
Ladies, listening to all of this thing, and I'm maybe showing you can, this is a thing, man. Because when I was walking with this lady, it's very intrusive. Even her seeing the doctor afterwards. It was in Cape Town, so she had a bad experience. So for she was at the police station. It was a bad experience because we were waiting in the waiting room, and the policeman came out in the waiting room and shouted out loud, "Can I have the rape victim, please? Is this woman?" So she was embarrassed. She was, I'm talking about almost 20 years ago, so I'm sure it's different now. So she was embarrassed. She had to go through this whole process. Now she still has to go to court and be asked the questions over and over again. It seems really like a tough. Is there any way, maybe Anel or Berendi, is there any way is that the only way, is there any way you can encourage ladies, because you want them to make a case so that the perpetrator can be caught, Anel?
The big thing is usually, as Berenice also said, it's usually somebody close to you that is a perpetrator. And lots of times the mother of the victim, or maybe anybody else that can influence the victim, will not go to court because the people are afraid of, maybe it's my uncle that's going to get arrested or something like that. So they must think of themselves at first, because you're going to walk with that psychological scar for the rest of your life. And if you don't address that, you won't be able to live your life to the fullest. So it's important for them to go and report it. There is a victim support center. They won't call you out in front of everybody. Yes.
It's not like
and
that
we've got trained people on each shift, and those people, we prefer that a lady take the statement, because there's very intimate questions that you need to ask. And the whole process of giving your statement is already so invasive, and you're sitting there with all the evidence on you. So it's very traumatic for the person to go through that. What we've done at our station, I prepared like in a care packet with a panty in it and maybe soap in it and whatever, so that when they finish at Tutuzela and they finish with the whole rape crisis kit and everything, at least they can clean themselves. Because it's, you feel so dirty. And the thing is for those women to know that it's okay. You know, I don't want to say you're just one of the statistics. You're one of the people that we want to change from a victim to a survivor. And you must see that as when you can overcome this whole process, you are a survivor. You're not a victim anymore. And we want to get it out there to the ladies. You must report it, because at the end of the day, you're going to suffer psychologically if you don't deal with it. And the sooner you deal with it, the better.
Sherwin, to bring you in here, I heard Wesley saying fathers teach your young sons to respect girls and women in general. Education starts at home. Joseph Williams says, my opinion is to initiate an awareness, starting to formalize equipped street committees focusing on gender-based violence to ensure victims have easy access to guidance swiftly. That's some good, that's really good ideas that is coming forth. Have you thought of what can be done, Shawan? What I know it's maybe you can't even answer the question, but have you thought what can be done about mobilizing people with the same effort and the same initiative that with FETU's the people came together at that with the same fire in their bones? How can we do that to prevent the situation? Because men especially, I suppose, we're supposed to be guardians. We're supposed to look out for one another, look out for the sister across the road, look out for the mother that's going to the shop, watch out for her. What is your feelings about our communities? And
Yeah, so Pastor, we live in close-knit communities. We know each other by name. We know the extent of everybody else's situation. I think that's how we grew up. In our communities, it's very, very visible that gender-based violence is a major issue. We know that, we even speak about it. You know, those kinder stories. Het jy gehoor het wie sy vrou geslaan or whatever? It's nice to speak about these things, but if nothing is practical is going to be done about it, then we're going to just continue to live in this cycle. I also want to say to the parents out there, you know, if there's a lot of sexual content on the internet, on TV, where we find ourselves, when we put on social media, there's sexual content. Those things are starting to educate and our kids, and it's starting to make them aware of their bodies and those kind of things. So I want to say to the parents that it's your duty to look into your child's phone. Make sure that you seeing who she's speaking to, who she's having contact with, you know, because it starts with these little moves, like I said earlier on, these small little things that they start doing. These inbox messages, they call it nowadays, they call it DMs, you know, when they can't publicly say something on your status, but they DM you, those kind of things. So practical ways, Pastor, would be to really start with education. You know, the community knows about these things, but there's also, you know, we can't expect the police to do everything. We can't expect the, you know, the statistics was given to us earlier on when we spoke about 150 cases in a month. I can only just imagine what a difficult task it must be. So it's our responsibility to come to a round table. I spoke to one of the counselors the other day, and we asked me the same question: what can be done? And at this point in time, it's just a collective responsibility. So we all need to put in the effort, and it starts in the homes. It starts in every home. And if we know about these kind of things, it's our duty, it's our moral duty to speak about it. We really should start speaking about it. It shouldn't be a Skinner story. It should be a report and the police on the desk if we know about these things.
Guys, we basically coming towards our end, and we've got about 10 minutes left of our time. Berenice, is there anything that we've left out, you feel? What else can be said about this conversation that we're having, especially coming from the Rape Crisis Center? Is there any other organizations? Are you guys working together? What can you tell us a little bit more about it? What do you want to say to our communities?
You know, I think abuse is so rife, and I also think that sometimes I understand in the society we need to get together, be proactive, start educating. But I also want my experiences through counseling. Also, I think sometimes it also comes to to the point where you have to make an individual decision as a person. So for example, if I'm in a relationship, is this what I want? You know, you need to make a choice. You need to make a decision, because at the end of the day, when it comes to gender-based violence, it's either you stay, you leave, or you either die. You have those three options in life when you are looking at gender-based violence.
Mm.
So from my point of view, I agree with Sherwin, with Warrant Officer Anel them, but I also think when it comes to the personal side, we need to start making really decisions in our life. What is good for us, you know? Because I can get the help from the community, and if I decide to stay in that abusive relationship, there's nothing no one can do. And I think we should start engaging it on that level. The second thing, as I also noticed, is that we separated this issue where men must decide or discuss the issue, and then women must discuss the issue on the other side. I think there's sort of a time that we actually get together and discuss this gender-based violence as a collective together. We cannot actually separate it, men on their own, women on their own. We need to get together and find solutions together on how to address gender-based violence. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Berenice. Thank you for those words. And now, what from your heart now, what from the police, what do you want to say to people out there? What do you want to say to the victims? What do you say to the community, the society? Because in general, to be quite honest with you, police and the community don't have a great relationship
No, they don't.
just in general.
Yeah.
So what can the police do? I know it's a big question, but what can the police do to sort of soften that relationship so that we can start trusting the police and report these cases? What is on your heart? What would you like to say as we close off?
The big thing with us is we usually do campaigns, but a door-to-door campaign is actually the best thing. And I think if we do that in conjunction with maybe social development, we had one of those in Zwelendinga, which is in our area. And we came across lots of abused women that never report the matter. And for me, it's to tell them and to actually motivate them to report the matter, because nothing is going to be done. And the thing is, your children are seeing how you are treated. They think that is the right way. That's the normal for them, which is not normal. So we need to educate our kids as well, but they copycat from their parents. And then one thing that I need to say as well is, if there's a person that can't report the matter himself or herself because of some situation, being maybe too scared or something, she is allowed to make an affidavit and give permission to somebody else. But in that affidavit, they must state clearly why they can't go to the court to apply for it themselves. We usually use this with vulnerable groups as well, our children and our elderly and then mentally handicapped people. We use that with them as well, because if the caretaker can pick up that something is not right, or maybe the teacher can pick up something is not right, they need to report it to their police station.
Yeah,
and
so
maybe the
it's
social development.
Like Berenice was saying, it's a collective responsibility.
It's a collective responsibility, yes.
Yeah.
No, I agree with Berenice, definitely.
Yeah, Sherwin, sorry, we need to almost close. Sherwin, I want to give you sort of a word as well. What from your heart now, speak to the community, speak to the role players out there. What do you want to say in a minute or so? What is on your heart here? How can we end this? Your ending statement.
Yeah. I wish I had much more time, Pastor, because there's so much that I would like to say on this issue. But I just want to say to the community out there, it is our responsibility. It is our moral duty. To the men out there, it is our duty to be the protectors of our women. We cannot sit on the sidelines and see these things happening in your family, in your church, in your organization. I also want to make an appeal to the leaders out there. I did this publicly at the event the other day where I called the counselors and I said to them, you know what, we want more done. We don't just want mere words, we want more done. I know their hands are full, but we just want to see more results. Then I want to also say to the media out there, and specifically now with regards to the northern areas, don't let it be the case that our stories appear once we see these things, when there's a body laying on the end of the street or something like that. Make our young people, make our youth aware of the situation. You know, we know what is happening. We can see it. It's clear. It's clear as daylight. The situation is bad in the area. So I'm just saying, you know, let us all play our part. You know, we have a big role to play, each and every one of us. You don't need to belong to an organization. Like I said earlier on, it's your moral duty to do this. And there's all the support. Educate yourself, read up on these things. The police is there, the rape crisis centers there. There's many organizations. Get involved and you know, just really do something about it, because words mean nothing until, you know, like I said at the beginning, your words have no credibility until they turn into action. So get out of your keyboards and behind your Facebook statuses and start getting into the community, and real action needs to be taken. Thank you, Pastor, for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Sherwin, Berenice, and Anel. Like you said, we need more. We've had 3 weeks already that we've been speaking about and highlighting. I want to have the last word, because I want to speak to churches there. I want to speak to Christians. Men of God, Christian, you cannot say that I have Jesus in my heart. Lift up your hands in church. Be an elder in church. Be a pastor in church, or be some kind of a minister, and then beat your wife at home. When you say you love Jesus, because Jesus said that you need to love your neighbor as you love yourself. And if you don't love your neighbor, you cannot love me. That was his words. And love means exactly that, loving one another. So my heart hurts if I hear that some of the perpetrators are in church on Sundays, but yet they are molesting, and you don't have Jesus in your heart. I don't know what to say to you. And I want to say to all the churches out there, we have camps, for instance, where we bring men together, young people together, and we try and transform their lives. I have a whole session on a Saturday session where I just speak to men, and they repent of their sin, because I believe Jesus is the answer. We have a vision at our church that we want to see a connect group in every street in our city, because we want to have God in every single part of our city, because our hearts need to turn to Jesus. So I just want to say to you, stop the violence, stop the abuse, allow the love of God. Let us protect our children. Let's protect our women. Women, let's protect our husbands. Let's protect our children. And let's portray the love of God. And that's, the Bible says that we are known by the love we have for one another. How do people know I'm a Christian? They can see it from the love I have for my fellow human being. And so I want to end with those words. I want to encourage every single Christian, every single church goer. Somebody was saying, Dion Kleinberg was saying, he says church is supposed to be a safe place, a safe haven, where children can come together, people can come and find safety. And man, I don't know what to say to you if you're not a safe haven and you call yourself a church. So, but I know the church can rise up. I know there's a lot of good being done out there. We're talking about a few people, that's churches, but most churches are good. Most pastors are doing well, but we need to become vocal. We need to become vocal about gender-based violence in our communities. Thank you very much for watching. I want to say thank you to Anel, Warrant Officer Van Ike, Sherwin, Nell, Berenice Jacobs. Thank you very much for forming a part of this panel today. God bless you. See you guys again next week when we talk on Branch Talks. Thank you for tuning in.
Thanks.